The puck drops in 33 days on the new NHL season. Yay! After a banner 2024-2025 season where there was record attendance, there was the success of the Four Nations International Tournament, a new all-time leading goal scorer, Alex Ovechkin of the Washington Capitals, and off the ice, a new CBA more than 1 year before the deadline, eliminating any possibility of any kind of work stoppage. So with that as our backdrop, I want to start on what's worked for the franchises, the league, and in creating engagement and growth for your respective entities.
But you did leave out one thing.
What did I leave out?
We have, by 2.5 times, the largest media deal in the history of Canada.
There you go, the deal with Rogers.
Which was 2.5 times our last deal, which was the largest media deal in the history of Canada.
Okay, so that's a victory for sports valuations, for media rights, for the league.
All good.
All good.
Ted liked it.
Ted, you liked it?
Liked it.
Okay. Ted, you've built Monumental Sports, which includes the Caps NHL team, the Washington Wizards NBA team, the Mystics WNBA team, around this idea of increasing fandom. So I'm curious, what does that look like from the C-suite, where you sit, and what does that look like to the average fan? How does it end up looking like for them?
We're spending most of our time now trying to capitalize on, we captured a new generation of fan, the Ovechkin effect, if you will. 20 years, all these young kids. We have the most active, one of the most active in North America, youth hockey. And you have to follow where the young people are, because that's who your fan base is going to be. And we have to fully make the pivot from linear, analog to digital. You heard the last speakers talk about the importance of global. We've been global from day one. And you know, we're in Washington, D.C., and the most popular athlete in the history of the community is Alex Ovechkin, a Russian. And so we spend all of our time trying to figure out how can we build a platform, be a really, really important business in this 10 million household community. Obviously, the linear part of that cable plant has shrunk. We bought our cable company, our RSN, from Comcast and NBC, and now we're able to make it a IP distribution network for us and a cross-promotion arm. And we put all of our games there. We've gotten renewals, but not only from the cable side, but now we can work with the YouTubes and the Amazons. And we think we have to become just embedded in the lives of 10 million people from Richmond, Virginia, all the way to Delaware.
So it looks very seamless from the fans' perspective, because it's where it should be. Wherever they turn, there you are. Gary, in keeping with this idea of Alex Ovechkin, everyone know who Alex Ovechkin is? Yes? Okay. His quest to surpass Wayne Gretzky as the all-time scorer, obviously that was a big thing, but it's not a regular thing. You can't count on something like that happening every season. So how do you build on the momentum that was generated and continue to activate fans?
Well, that's a great question, but I want to add one thing, which is the best indication of what a visionary Ted is. He has created his own ecosystem, and they have content 24/7, 365 days a year that they create, because he's aggregated all of the assets, whether it's teams in a variety of sports, the arena, or his own streaming platform. That's what makes it all work. And he has always been fan-facing, consumer-facing, from the day you first bought the franchise, which was, what, 26?
Well, I was a season ticket holder before I bought the team. And
he was a fan first.
So what Ovechkin did is really what sports is about. It captures the imagination. It gives people a chance to focus on things that are superhuman. You know, Alex broke a record that nobody thought was possible to break, and it's a testament to him, his physical prowess, his skill, his endurance, his ability to not get injured, and the support that he got from his organization in terms of the players they surrounded him with and everything they've done off the ice. So what do is you look for big events, for big stories, and you use every platform imaginable, whether it's linear, streaming platform, social media, and no different than what we did in February with the Four Nations tournament. I mean, we created something that even if you weren't a hockey fan, even if you weren't a sports fan, you felt compelled to tune in because it was so topical and so intriguing, people wanted to know more.
Well, geopolitics helped a little bit there too, right?
Well, a little bit, but yes.
We're on national TV the most of any team next year. So there's still, Alex is still a very popular player, but it's also, we finished first in the East last year. We had a really, really good team. We weren't out of context because hockey, at the end of the day, is the most competitive of sports. The playoffs, obviously, are the showcase of that. And we've been able to build hockey in our community. People would say that DC was a basketball town. It is, but now it's a hockey town. And we're heading towards $1 billion in revenue. Monumental Sports and Entertainment. My goal is to make it the most valuable regional sports and entertainment company. We have currency, we have great investors, we have one platform, and right now we're being valued $7-8 billion. 2 years, because our business is very predictable, we'll hit $1 billion. Maybe it's worth $10 billion, which would mean Gary would be CEO of a $300 billion company. I don't think you've treated the commissioners with the respect that they deserve, right? No, I'm serious. When you look at it, they're running a global branded business with billions of fans, hundreds and hundreds of millions of customers, fans. The fan avidity in this business is off the chart. We say we're not public companies. I go, yeah, well, he gets booed at every Stanley Cup, right? You hear from the fans. They're voting every single day. That's why the renewals are so important.
Yeah.
What are we averaging as a league in our renewals?
Over 90%.
Over 90%.
Because our fans, most people don't focus on it, our fans tend to be the most avid, the most affluent, the youngest, and the best educated, and the most tech savvy.
So let me pick up on that idea.
By the way, I have to negotiate my next contract with you.
Ted will be your agent. Let's pick up on that idea of having the youngest audience and the most tech-savvy audience, because your partnerships matter. As the CEO of a $300 billion company, as Ted put it, partnerships like TikTok on the Capitals away jerseys, Roblox to create a metaverse experience to reach that younger Gen Z audience. I'm sorry?
Just announced yesterday, Coupang is going to be one of our...
There you go. So that idea of teaming up with brands that matter to a younger audience that perhaps isn't trained to watch TV the same way we are.
There are two parts to answering that question. One is the authenticity and the game itself. And the good news for us, and I never like to talk about other sports, but when it comes to pace of play, there's more action. You can't be on your phone if you're watching.
You'll miss something.
You'll miss something because it happens fast and furious. So the amount of action to the amount of length of a game works very well for us, and it's compelling for younger people. The second thing is you've got to reach your fans and your would-be fans on their terms now, particularly now. You got to give them, as everybody says, what they want, when they want it, how they want it. It didn't get a lot of attention, but when the old deal in Canada with Rogers 12 years ago included a streaming component, it was really the first national sports league deal to do that. And our deal, most recent deal with ESPN, and we have Amazon in Canada, we've always looked to see how can we use technology, not to change the game, but to take essential elements of the game and make them more fan or consumer friendly so that we can bring people inside the game. And that's where, because the game is so fast, using technology, puck and player tracking, does a couple of things for us. One, we're creating millions of data points a minute. And that's enabled fans to get inside the game and understand it better if they didn't grow up at hockey fans. And using the metaverse, we actually use the puck and player tracking to use animated versions of our game so that young people can get attracted to watching it using their favorite cartoon characters.
Yeah. And reimagining the game, especially on a global basis, we're the largest investor. I'm chairman of Team Liquid. And Team Liquid is the #1 esports in North America. We just came in second place in Saudi Arabia. It was $30 million in prize money that was awarded there. And we play on 11 different platforms. And you'll read, it's a winter, nuclear winter for esports. That's like saying the web, this was bad. In the mid-90s, the web blew up. Don't make any investments in web companies. I think 25 years ago, the company I helped to create, AOL, we had a $200 billion market cap. Microsoft had a $400 billion market cap. It's 25 years later, AOL doesn't exist. Microsoft has a $4 trillion market cap. And they've had to reinvent themselves. They're now an AI and cloud computing company. So Team Liquid, we play in 11 different platforms. And the people in Saudi Arabia, which are building a whole city and infrastructure for tourism, for their young people around esports. They said, what other sport can we reinvent and make competitive? And we said chess.
Chess?
Chess. Okay, now.
As an esport?
So we launched and we signed Magnus Carlsen, the world's most famous #1 chess player, and he won the world championship a couple of weeks ago, and it's boomed now with young kids. Young kids go, chess is cool. It's analytic, it's algorithmically oriented, you can train online, you can do multi-user games. So it's a really interesting loop, if you will, of you can use technology to reinvigorate, what looked like an older sport. That's what I think we've done in the NHL. When I first came in 26 years ago, I said, this looks like a video game to me. I mean, you've got the glass, the players are out there, they're working as hard as they can, but for 30-second shifts. Alex probably stays out a little longer than he should. But the speed, the music, it was a video game come to life.
Yeah.
They said, we have to connect that speed, the sounds, and like I got rid of the organ. I can't tell you how many older fans hated me. I said, but kids
you got to move with the times.
Yeah, kids want different music. They don't want organ music. So just paying attention to the younger audience, and it's amazing how fast time goes. Gary, how long have you been commissioner?
32 years.
32 years. He's the most tenured commissioner. Not 10 years. He's got 32 years.
And we'll get to maybe your future plans in just a bit. But as we grow the audience, as you grow the brands that are in your company, that often means expanding the league. And Gary, I know that there's been discussion of expanding the league this year by the NHL, but ultimately the league decided against moving forward with it for now. Why is that? Why not move now?
Well, we're at 32.
Is that a magic number?
Well, no. And in fact, we were at 31, and people said, well, you got to go to 32. And I go, you don't expand just for symmetry. Our two most recent expansions are Seattle and Vegas. Vegas probably the most successful. Seattle as well. Expansion in any sport in modern times, both in terms of their business presence in their communities and how well they're doing, but also in terms of their performance.
Yeah, on the ice.
Because the historical model for expansion was, in all sports, you charge as much money as you can, and you give as few players as humanly possible of quality. And the team, there's an enthusiasm in the market for 2 or 3 years. The team chronically loses, fan interest dwindles, and about 10 years after the start, they get competitive. Well, we have, because of our economic system with the players, I think we have the best competitive balance of the major sports, and the owners understood and supported the notion, why would you bring in a team that couldn't be competitive? We didn't expect the team to go to the Stanley Cup final in its first year, but I think there were a lot of reasons, including emotional reasons, relative to the shootings in Vegas, which happened the week before the team started. But at the end of the day, 32 is a good number. I think we could do more. There's enough worldwide talent. We have a worldwide talent pool that we could handle more. We have expressions of interest, I don't know, from 6, 8, 10 different cities.
Any in Canada?
Yeah, always.
Even with the economics right now of...
The economics are okay. I know there's been a lot of discussion that, well, what have the tariffs done to the economics of teams in Canada? So there's no simple answer to anything, so you'll have to indulge me. Our system, first off, is we pay our players and we compute our economics in US dollars. So there's already an automatic hedge built into the system by virtue of the fact that it's US dollars converted from Canada. We have revenue sharing, which deals with that as well, although some of our most successful teams, even with the equalization or without the equalization, are in Canada. So the system deals with the fact that there's a discrepancy between US and Canadian dollars. And in fact, I've been doing this long enough. I was there at a time where the Canadian dollar was stronger than the US dollar. So you learn, and frankly, if every time I guess in terms of where we should be hedging, I'm wrong. So if you figure out what we're doing, do the opposite, and you'll be fine, because we've been consistent. But the second part is, I had a lot of the Canadian owners call after the announcement of the tariffs, very concerned about what was going to happen. And I said, well, we'll have to see what happens. The only concern is if it impacts the Canadian economy, because the dollar, Canadian dollar today, is actually stronger than it was 6 months ago as against the US dollar, because I think, and you know this better than me, the US dollar softened a little bit against worldwide currencies. So I think it was 70 cents on the dollar in January, and it, as of this morning, it's one of the things I check when I first get up every day, was 72 cents, and I think it was as high as 73 cents. So unless the Canadian economy collapses, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen, the dollar isn't going to be much of an issue for our Canadian clubs, any more than it's been historically.
Okay,
and
so
being in Washington, D.C., and people in power hearing that narrative, it's no wonder that our president said, oh, Canada, it's our 51st state. Right? Everything is being balanced in US dollars.
By the way, the notion, and not to get political and not to dispute anything our president may have said, if you go to Canada and you spend time in Canada and you get to know the people in Canada and you understand the culture of Canada, there is no way that it is the 51st state. And you know, they're not some little kid sibling who, you know, just is there to toy with. They have their own history, their own traditions, including making hockey the #1 sport. I mean, we're like the NFL in the U.S., and that's an important thing. Now,
that's why you were able to get the big dollars from Rogers.
Although our TV ratings would go up dramatically if we were counting the Canadian audience.
It certainly would. I got to ask you, Ted, because you talk about the trade situation, you talk about the geopolitical situation, and a lot of this conference has focused on the big money coming into sports, particularly from institutional investors. And Monumental is the only American pro sports entity that has taken on sovereign wealth. The Qatar Investment Authority bought about a 5% stake in 2023, valuing your company at over $4 billion. Can you just walk us through the thought process behind taking them on as an investor?
Yeah, and I think, it's one of the reasons that I agree to come and speak here. I paid $85 million for the Capitals 26 years ago. I paid it all in cash. And the leagues have done something really smart. They have debt limits. They protect us from ourselves.
Just like a salary cap.
And as these businesses started to get better understood, and they look like software service businesses, 80% of my revenue is contracted. Think about that, right? It's just like we look like Salesforce.com or Oracle. We do a big media deal, it's for 10 years. We do a naming rights deal, it's for 10 years. There's built-in escalators, just like a software company charges per seat more and more every year. It's a really beautiful business model in that way. And so I kind of looked at this and said, private equity is coming in now. And the reason private equity was originally coming in, it's not where it is today, but they were originally coming in because there was a report done that said 70% of the minority owners of NFL teams were 80 years of age or older. So when they died, or they wanted out, or their estate wanted out, how would you get liquidity? I've had 2 partners in 26 years die. They put $25 million into the company 25 years ago, and now it's worth $300 million. I don't have $300 million laying around in cash. So Arctos, they've done a great job. A lot of the private equity funds are coming in. Originally, they would monetize the small positions. Instead, what they've ended up doing is being a part of the purchase of these teams. I see some clouds out there. When I read someone's buying a team at $8 billion, and they're going to use $1 billion of debt as a part of the down payment. And then the main owner has to own 20% or 30%, depending on the league. That's $2 billion. That's, those are big, big numbers. And so when private equity gets in and they're getting more and more aggressive, they want an exit. They want out. Now, a sovereign wealth fund, when I met the people from Qatar, they say, New York, Washington, D.C., LA, professional sports, 100 years old. Your building, your real estate is blocks. You can see the White House from my office. You can see the Capitol. We want safe harbor. We don't want an exit. We want to take our money and give it to you. You'll be the safeguarder. It's their
So it's patient capital.
Very patient capital and a lot of capital. We know that some of the funds that are running around in sports, it's $3 billion, $5 billion. Sovereign wealth funds have trillions of dollars, right? And they're looking for, and the floodgates really should open. It's the smart play because they're very patient. The league rules have it. They don't come to board meetings. They don't come to games. They can't. They're not on the board. I don't give them tickets to games. I've got partners. I'm hosting bar mitzvahs. At the arena. You don't get that from sovereign wealth funds. So I think, we did something good in getting the pension funds and the sovereign wealth funds in, and it's the right thing for the leagues.
And it's also a recognition of the strength of what we are. We're media companies, and I believe, and I'm probably biased, there's no more important or compelling content, no matter what the platform or the form of distribution is, than live sports.
Live sports. I promised that we'd get to your future, so I have one final question for you.
We can skip that question.
No. You're the longest serving commissioner in North American sports, as we talked about, 32 years. What kind of succession planning is taking place once you decide to move on?
The answer is I have a very strong bench. I have great executives who work with me, particularly at the C-suite level. I have a deputy commissioner who's been with me for 26 years, Bill Daly, who is terrific. And if I got hit by a bus walking out of here today, he could step in.
Hope not.
But it was funny. I've said to my executive committee, not that I'm getting ready to retire, but I said at some point we need to focus on this because I'm all most of them have ever known. I mean, there are 3 legacy families in Boston, Detroit, and Chicago, original 6 clubs. And then there's Ted and everybody new who's come in since I've been commissioner. And when you get identified with something as much as I have been, succession becomes an issue because question of style and presence and branding. But I'm also cognizant of the fact that at some point there needs to be a more youthful person pitching the brand. And I understand that. So at some point...
My wife the other day told me that when I see Gary, she said, "You look great." And Gary said, "I've lost 25 pounds.
But we don't tell everybody that.
So, succession planning is something that all boards have to be focused on.
Sure.
Yeah.
But right now, I would say we're in total alignment on growing the game and growing the revenues.
But it goes to whether or not, and when I raised the issue for the first time, I said, listen, you need me to do a new collective bargaining agreement?
Yeah.
Check the box. We need to do new media agreements.
Check.
And I said, but as important as that is for any CEO and a board, as important as what succession look like, because you want the business to continue to run as flawlessly as possible and not hit bumps just because you're changing who's running it.